Creating powerful branding and content to elevate your law firm with David Jasse, episode 316. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I always start with, and today I have a treat for you, but I really do today have a treat for you because one of the things that law firms understand that they need is good video for their law firm, and how much of that we understand really varies from person to person. But if you get to a law firm website and they don't have a good firm video on display there, it says a lot about that law firm. And video has gone so much further than the law firm video on the website, or if you're doing TV ad placements, things like that. And I wanted to bring somebody on who has video expertise and can help us to navigate what you need to think about when it comes to your video marketing and how much does really need to go into it. I happened to meet somebody at a local networking group, and we connected, we hit it off. We had a really good conversation about a year ago, and we didn't really reconnect until I think it was actually more than a year ago. I think it was pre-COVID, but regardless, whatever it was, we ended up reconnecting, and he came out and from the city, from the JFK airport area out to Rockland County, and sat down with me, and we had lunch together, and it was just a wonderful conversation. I said, you know what, we got to get you on the podcast. We got to share this and share you with our audience. So here we are today doing this interview together. So let me just introduce you to David Jasse. David is the owner and founder of DMJ Studios. David is a video strategist, producer, and director for more than 25 years, having worked in broadcast TV for many years at such places as CNN, Fox, CBS, and MTV. Today, David leads DMJ Studios, where he and his team figure out the right solution to accomplish the client goals at hand, always having the target audience in mind, from strategy to branding to production and final editorial. DMJ Studios not only produces quality work, but coordinates the marketing to get the best results and return on investment. So there's no better person to bring onto the show than David, and I'm happy to share him with you today. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's my absolute pleasure. So I like to start off with something really easy. I read a pre-scripted bio for you. People want to know who you are. They want to know, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why does he do video? What makes him tick? So let's just take a few minutes and share some parts of your story of what got you to where you are today.
Well, I used to get up at 4:00 in the morning to take a 4:20 train into the studio to set up for CNN at 5:30 in the morning. And it was the best job since sliced bread. I ended up being a cameraman, an engineer, an editor, and a producer at CNN over the course of 4 years that I was there. And it was really a great education in television. So that was my start.
And I take it you loved it so much that you decided, hey, I can do this better than CNN.
Well, actually, it was, you're working for a big company, and it's nothing like working for private clients. It was really training, because a lot of people say, why did you leave? That was like an hourly salary job. It was very good. I used to work 5:30 to 1:30. And then I used to freelance from 2 p.m. till 8 p.m. I did fashion television. I did cooking shows. And eventually, and I freelanced for CBS and I freelanced for MTV. Eventually, those took over and I left the CNN job. And after a number of years, mainly being a freelance editor, I went into the private sector. But being in the news business, whether it was for me or people we hire, that's a great place to really break your chops. You're putting out quality video. You may not agree with the content. I had nothing to do with that. You're putting out quality video quickly and often, you get good. It's a great place to get going.
Yeah, and you don't get to spend hours editing it, right? It's like you're a lot of the stuff's happening live as it's going on, and you got to be doing rapid fire work to move things around and have things placed properly on the screen. And I don't think people really appreciate how much actually goes on before it gets to our TV screen.
No, not at all. And if you've ever seen those crashes take place in those movies in the news business, those were real, and we'd be running down the hall. Back in the old days, you couldn't do a satellite transmission from your phone. We had to upload videos to satellites and book satellites and roll the tapes in New York. And it was a great feeling when you saw it playing all around the world on the air. Because when I was in engineering the control room, that's what we used to do. We used to put the tapes in the actual tape deck.
Yeah.
It wasn't digital. And you would hit play, and then you would see it play all around the world on TV. It was really fun. And to this day, I still find anything behind the scenes or what we do still very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, no, I know that you did a lot of work for nonprofits before you got your first law firm client, but you really have a heart for law firms. So I want to just talk briefly about your work for nonprofits, and then how did you get into the legal space, and why why do you enjoy working with law firms?
Well, just very quickly in the nonprofit space, I became a little bit more involved in the community and helping them raise money. And we worked with schools, we worked with brain injury, we worked with pediatric cancer, you name it. And the important thing is engaging emotional stories and good storytelling to get something done, to raise money. And whether it's a minute promo to get people to an event, a 6-minute video at an event. And we also pivoted during Corona to virtual events. And we put together entertaining, meaningful content. So whether you're doing that for nonprofit or with law, that's the important thing. You have to reach your audience, and you reach them in a different way. If it's a little shorter for digital media, if it's a little longer, if you're in person, depending on the situation, the video is going to be a little different. As far as law firms are concerned, it was the same type of thing. We have to be, having a broadcast TV background, ensures that we're going to do something with great quality that's going to be engaging to the masses. It's not going to look like this homegrown stuff. I was never around homegrown stuff. There is a place today for homegrown stuff, meaning it's very authentic. If the content is right, if it's a testimonial video shot on the phone, it might work out very well, or shot over Zoom. But generally speaking, to maintain a brand, like you mentioned before, you're looking for high quality. So you want me to just transition right into the law firm situation where we've been?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Let us know about your experience in the law firm space, and why you want to work with more law firms. Like what excited you about that work? And I think that'll give us a taste of what's possible for law firms.
Well, first of all, we've been fortunate to have been working with injurylawyer.com, Alan Rothenberg and his team for a number of years. We started off doing it his way and doing it very well, meaning he likes just to look at the camera and sell. He's been very successful with that formula for 25 years. And that's how we started off. And over the years, we progressed to other things. People change, advertising changes. They're looking for authentic. They want to get to know people. So we've done documentaries now about him and his family. Another very important thing that we did for them and we encourage for other people is testimonial videos. That's super important. And something important to keep in mind is a lot more goes into these things than most people see. You're going to see, let's say, 20 seconds on the air, but there's a lot of choices. Who is it going to be? We have to have a diverse group of people. What are they going to talk about? What should they say? Who should we interview? So those things go on behind the scenes. And then a lot goes on in editing. You know your audience. So it's really, it's a process of deciding who's going to be on camera, what are they going to say, how are they going to say it, and editing it down. And it's a very, very powerful medium because you have so much control when you do it on video. It's not like live.
Now, video is very expansive, right? I mean, there's everything from a TV ad commercial spot to a website placement to having a YouTube channel to, dropping things into the Facebook and media feed and maybe even, Facebook and Instagram and Reels and TikTok. Like there's a whole gamut of video. So what is this professionally prepared videos and strategy that you create? Like what part of that spectrum does it cover and what part of it does it not cover?
Well, it covers all those parts. What does that mean? You start with the end in mind. You figure, who do you have to reach and how are you going to reach them? So first and foremost, hopefully it's a little bit of let's just take an example of we happen to be rebranding somebody right now, and we feel people have to get to know them and their practice. So we're going to go into the practice, we're going to get to know the people and so forth. So you'll be able to see a 2-minute overview of what's going on because you want to know that. But there's no reason that after we're going in and speaking to the main lawyer and other people in the firm, there's no reason just to limit it to that film. So we always have in mind that we're going to need for all those mediums that you just described. So to repurpose it for LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok, that's very easy because when we go in, we get more than we need and we always have the end in mind. An important thing to keep in mind is that no matter what field you are, you have a knowledge base that other people don't have. So that's what content marketing is. You want to give away some content so people will know you're experts and they'll be engaged with you. People don't want to just hear, I've been in business 25 years, I'm wonderful, I'm the best, and so forth. People want actual knowledge that they could use, frequently asked questions if you answer them, and so forth. So you create good content, and then you figure out how to repurpose it. And it could be repurposed either in-house. Injurylawyer.com happens to have an incredible in-house digital marketing department. So you hear our stuff on the Met game, you hear our stuff on YouTube. They put it everywhere and they're very good at it. And they're very good at testing it and so forth. Or we can help people with that. Because sometimes people's idea of posting on social media is really just putting it up. And there's no strategy and there's no thought. So if you have an in-house department, fine, we work together and give you the elements. If you don't, we could work together to make sure that we'll give you the content that's going to work for you.
So do you mean when they're posting on social that it's not just upload the video, but there's text that has to go with the video? You got to somehow attract people's attention to watch it and that kind of stuff? Or is it even more tactical than like, how often are we going to do this and what time of day are we doing it? And what's the sequence of when we're posting each of these things?
I know enough to be dangerous, and I work with, digital marketing partners who know even more, but you're hitting all the points. You have to know your demographics. You have to be able to write headlines that are catchy. You have to do a number of things in order for it to work. And marketing is testing. That's the beauty of the world today, that we're using digital marketing. Because when you put stuff on television, and I know our clients are using less and less broadcast because you can't track it. And they're using more and more digital because you can track it. So like I said, marketing is testing. And if you do it digitally, you could get a good idea of what's working and what's not.
Yeah, it also has to do with how much is your stuff being viewed. Ads on broadcast are being viewed less and less because people are watching live TV less and less. They DVR everything, fast forward through the commercials. So chances are that you're not getting the exposure that you think you're getting when you're doing that. Okay, I want to switch gears because let's just assume that a lot of our listeners don't have video right now at all. Maybe they've got like a something that they invested in at some point in their career and they put it on their website and that's it. And there's no real content strategy. There's no real branding strategy, marketing strategy around video. What is the bare bones basics that you think that doesn't matter what size law firm, doesn't matter how, where you're at in your stage of business, this is like a must have for you? Like what's the starting point, and then what are the building blocks from there to get to a fully done video strategy like you're doing for Injury Lawyer?
You always have to start with the end in mind. I think people underestimate advertising. Since the tools of advertising are in the hands of everybody, people think it's really easy and they don't have an appreciation for the advertising agency or for the actual creative. So, when I hear the question, it'd be like, yeah, it would be great to give a starter kit solution. But you always have to start with the end in mind. And you start with a creative brief. Where are we? Where do we want to go? What do we want to look like? Are there any brands or lawyers out there that we like, that we want to look like? How big is my average client? Who am I trying to reach? You always have to start out. There's sensitivities, as you know, in different areas of law and injury law versus speeding tickets or something like that. So first of all, you have to start out with an advertising campaign. We have some wonderful creative people on our team, and they'll present 4 different ideas, for example, on how to approach something. So number one, advertising takes a lot of wisdom and thought, and it's always worth to start with this with the end in mind and have a strategy meeting and do a creative brief and really figure out who you are, who your brand is, what your why is, get some information about you. Having said that, and if you don't want to get too complicated, my specialty in making films for more than 25 years is getting the story out of regular people. So if I came into a law office and we cast a day of shooting, speaking to various partners, getting B-roll around the office, around the table, I'm obviously picturing a certain firm when I'm saying this. Not every firm has that beautiful office. But let's say you had that beautiful office and we came in for a day. Great to talk to the partners, great to talk to the associates. And if we could talk to a few satisfied clients, maybe it's a 2-day shoot. We're going to have a lot of material. A story that comes from the heart touches the heart. So we're going to have a lot of material to create a lot of great footage. And part of the conversation will be, let's do some content. Let's do some frequently asked questions. So we're going to be able to do some content marketing on your social media. So we're going to have a good arsenal of materials. We're going to have lawyers, partners, clients to be able to put together into, let's say, an overall video, into some frequently asked question videos, and some testimonial videos. That's going to be a pretty good arsenal for a lot of people.
Now, how long does this arsenal last? You just keep recycling through it because it never gets old because you have enough of it that people don't remember the first one by the time it plays again? Or is this a never-ending cycle where we do a shoot and that gives us enough content for a year and then we have to come back next year and do it again?
I think it's going to last a lot longer than you think, because it takes at least 9 times for anybody to really see anything. So it's not the end of the world that it plays for a long time at all. And we could create variations when we do it. And it's very important, we didn't speak about it, is branding. People do not know what it is, and people don't appreciate it. So just to go on the last question, whatever the content is, it has to be branded. Now, what does branded mean? Branding I have to give an example so people can appreciate it. In the 90s, they did an experiment with the Plymouth Laser versus the Mitsubishi Eclipse. The car looked pretty much the same. It came out the same year, and they wanted to see who would do better. They tracked it all year. One car had more complaints and sold for less. The Mitsubishi sold for more and had less complaints. And then at the end of this little short film that I have on this subject, so it turns out when you look at the end of this little short film, it turns out it was the exact same car. It was a dual production between Mitsubishi and Plymouth. And Plymouth went out of business with that car. They discontinued it. And Mitsubishi charged more, got more, and went on for many years. The point is, you could have the best material, product, but without the right branding in the marketplace, you could fall off the mat very easily. So there are a lot of people out there.
There's a lot of really good and smart lawyers out there who are amazing at what they do. But when they open up their law office thinking, oh, I'm an amazing lawyer, I'm gonna kill it, I'm gonna be the, everyone's gonna be lining up at the door to work with me, that doesn't necessarily happen. And that's the point that I think you're trying to make, is that, and a lot of our listeners will probably attest to the fact, like, I don't understand why lawyer X is doing so well in my town. We do the same thing. I'm much better than them. They don't even know what they're doing, but somehow they're managing to get all the clients. And ultimately, what it comes down to is marketing. And you're saying that is what branding is all about. So how does that, what is the branding aspect of it? And why is Plymouth and Mitsubishi a good example of that?
That's just an example where it's the exact same car, and one got more complaints and sold for less and was forced to close. It's just mind-boggling, even to myself, who's been in business so long in this business, to know that it could be the exact same product and packaged differently is a totally different story. One last quick story before I'll give you some more pointers is, very simply, they used to design or create the recipe for the best chocolate pudding, and then they'd figure out how to package it. Today, it's done the opposite way. We're going after the 18-year-olds to 24-year-olds. What package design would they like? And once we find the market and find out what the product should look like, then they make the pudding. So it's unbelievable, but there could be somebody, like you said, who knows pretty much not too much about law, and they'll look better than somebody who's really smart. So first and foremost, I want to say, when it comes to the branding, this is not all about the video. It is not. The brand starts with the look and the feel and the logo and the design. And who are we going after? Are they old? Are they young? Who is our target audience? And everybody always says, everybody. But the more specific that you can be, the more successful you can be. And it's so important. I come across so many people who are amazing in what they do. And I guess I'm spoiled because I'm in the business for so long. They just don't see how they look like a rookie, and they look fake. They don't look real. They just don't look real. And they could have the best qualifications in the world. And like you said, they're better than a lot of people out there. But you really got to invest. And people always say, how much does branding cost? Or how much does a video cost? And our question is, how much do you want to make? Do you want to land $100,000 client? Do you think you could be the designer and you could be the advertiser to all of a sudden know advertising and marketing like you know law and be able to do it so successfully on a shoestring budget? It's not realistic. If you want to, land a $100,000 client, or maybe $1 million client, or even more in the law field, it's worth investing, because it's not it's not just to get one gig, it's to get a lot of gigs. You really have to always keep in mind that all the touch points are very important, whether it's a card, whether it's a website, whether it's a Facebook. I don't know about you, but when I'm looking for to hire somebody, I scope them out and I look for the worst thing I could find about them. If they post like really stupid things on Facebook, I'll be like, I'll get a good idea of who this person is.
Right.
So
I don't want to work with this clown.
exactly. So, it's very important that all the touch points look professional. I think most of us, how do we get our jobs? Why are we successful? Why are we in business? Because we're good at what we do and we over deliver and we get recommendations. So that's great. Keep it up. That'll take you to a point. But now, if you want to get new clients and if you want to scale a little bit, you know that better than anybody else. We spoke a lot about these things. That's why you specialized and so forth. You need to, I lost my train of thought a little bit there.
Yeah, you were explaining that if you want to scale, if you want to go beyond just having good referrals and good reviews on Google and allowing some business to come your way, but if you want to open the faucet and really take market share from other opportunities that are out there, that's where, and I'll let you continue because that's where you were up to.
Thank you. Yeah, that's going to make a difference. And when you pitch a client and they're trying to decide whether to go with you or somebody else, they're going to start, then it goes beyond just, good word of mouth, whatever. Now they're going to go online and they're going to look. And isn't it a shame that there's not something really good there when you see it?
Yeah. And you know what, that you bring up a really good point, because there isn't one thing that works alone by itself in a silo. Like you can spend, $25,000, $50,000 on a really good video campaign. You hire DMJ Studios. They come in with actors and actresses and scripts and a full crew, and they shoot video for 2 days, and then they spend a few weeks editing. And now you've got this entire beautiful package. And somebody goes and watches your advertisement, catches their attention. Now they go to check you out. They go on Google and they search for your law firm, and they get 5 one-star Google reviews. That doesn't matter how good that video is. When somebody is now doing their due diligence and whether they want to pick up the phone and call your firm, that's going to stop them in their tracks. So it's kind of like you need to do all the things right. You need to be good at what you do. You need to have good customer experiences. You need to have a quality product that you're delivering in order to now turn on the faucet and deliver even more. And so DMJ Studios can't fix that. David can't fix that. That's on you to have your business ready. But if you're ready, you've already done all these things. Your website is good. Your reviews are good. You've got people talking really good things about you. You've got systems and processes in place so that when you have an influx of clients, you can handle them. You have the staff there. You're ready to go. You just need to figure out, how am I going to get more clients? That's when you want to dive fully into a full video implementation strategy.
But keep in mind that we could, like you just described, and we actually happened to have done that for Rothenberg. It was a lot of fun. We did bring in actors. Originally, they just wanted that green screen on camera stuff. We convinced them a couple days before the shoot that actors would really help. And we cast a diverse group of actors, and it was terrific. And we used some people from around the firm, and we have all this wonderful footage that we can edit in while the folks are speaking. And we also convinced them, instead of to just have their pre-written commercials read to camera, that we'd also sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation, because people want to do business with people and they want to get to know them. And while we're on the subject of law and getting to know them and personal interviews, I just want to say that a lot of us outsiders have the perception of lawyers being not trustworthy. And the nice thing was, when we went in and we started interviewing them, and you see how honest they are and how they're really out for the client's best interest, and they're not at all ambulance chasers, telling the real story in law firms is very effective, because there's a perception out there that, you know what the perception is, ambulance chases or whatever. So it's important to do advertising. It's important to do the right advertising. And It's
Okay, so let's talk about the specifics a little bit more, because you said that you hired actors, you did the scripts, and who does all that work? Like, what if somebody who's listening to this says, I'm in, I understand the value of having this kind of video exposure, and I would love to do, and I don't know, I'm throwing numbers out there. You tell me if it's right or wrong. I want to do 2 days of a video shoot, dedicate 2 days on my calendar, and then have 100 pieces of content for the next year to use in all the different places, right? I'm all in. What does the what does the lawyer have to do? What does the firm owner have to do? And what do you do? Are they simply signing a contract, writing a check, and everything else is done by you and your team? Or do they need to sit down and write scripts and come up with FAQs and all, like, uh how does all of that happen?
Well, like I said before, you start with the end in mind. So we have to strategize together. So it all starts with a meeting together to figure out what content we're going to be creating and how we're going to create it. On a nice and simple level, we've been successful in business because you can leave the driving to us. We very often get hired by people who said, oh, the last video company wanted us to figure this out. So we figure it all out, we make it happen, but it's all based on what you tell us, who your client is, and how, we download from you who you are, who you're trying to reach, what's the messaging that has to be out there. If you already have good written materials on your website, it's much easier to turn it into video content. But for discussion's sake, if you don't, we could create that written content, or we could create the video content even without getting you that written content. But we recommend a comprehensive approach. You really have to have all your ducks in a row and consistent messaging and consistent branding. But to answer your question, we'll make it happen. We'll ask all the questions. You can leave the driving to us. But of course, we're going to get the information from you to know your specialty and your target audience and your sweet spot.
Understood. So there is some time commitment involved, but not necessarily creative commitment involved, right? I think that people are afraid of, I'm not a creative, right? I don't have the creativity to come up with what should we talk about and that kind of stuff. And knowing that that's really off the table, you'll drive that, and I just need to answer your questions and share my own life experiences and my own knowledge with you, and then you'll take it from there and run with it and make it work. I think that's huge. I think that really helps people understand that this is doable, right? It's simply a matter of making the time for it.
Let's put this in perspective. You may not be able to, or your audience may not believe me, but just how you're a lawyer and you have a specialty and you don't want me to tell you how to do your job. We actually are also specialists, and we don't really want you to tell us how to do our job. If you leave it to us, it'll cost you less and you'll get better results. The biggest challenge is when people think they're creative and they think they know what they're doing and they think they know the advertising they want. That's not to say there aren't sometimes directors of communication on board that we've worked with who are fantastic. And together, we work together and we put out great product. But you just run into situations where people don't have an appreciation that it took you 20 years to know your profession. It took me 20 years to know mine and my team's, and you should just let us do what we're supposed to do. I was going skiing and this guy starts telling me, and he was an accountant. And I'm like, how did you know this? He goes, my friend's in advertising. I'll tell you what he said to me. He goes, oh yeah, my friend in advertising, he tells me that if you want us to do the creative work, if you leave it to me, it's $200 an hour. If you want to make comments, it's $300 an hour. If you want to sit and work with me and give me a lot of feedback, it's $500 an hour. So, you have to stay out of the way of the lawyer and let him do his job. Obviously, give him all the facts that you can, but then let him run with it. And it's the same thing here. You give us all the facts and particulars that you can and let us run with it.
Got it. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So one thing that I'm a little bit curious about is obviously there's a whole gamut of possibilities of how much you can do for somebody, and all of that is going to drive the investment that they're going to have in the project. Um, but the project doesn't really take scope or fruition until you have your deep dive meeting and understanding of the background of the firm and what makes them tick and who their target audience is and how good or terrible their branding is and all that stuff. So at what point does somebody know what this is going to cost? How far into the project do you need to go to get there? And how's that typically navigated on the front end?
A budget could be from $5,000 to, let's say, $100,000 and above. So what's $5,000? $5,000 means you have your creative in a row, and it's more like just editing, putting together some ads, Facebook ads, cutting them down, maybe even just a voiceover, stock video with content, because we already know what we're doing. On the other hand, the creative process could cost $5,000 to $10,000 to go through the creative brief and start writing up a script and writing up some strategies. So it really depends on the situation. It ranges.
Yeah. I'm just when I sit here in this seat, right? I'm interviewing somebody. I'm trying to think about, like, what is my listener sitting there thinking? What's going through their mind? What questions are they asking? Right. And I think the biggest question that somebody is asking when they're, listening to this is, I want video. I want good, high quality video. Who doesn't, right? Like, I would love to just know that I have all this content prepared. It's going to, I'm just going to put it out there and it's going to work for me. And it's going to create this branding and this presentation for my firm. But it seems like it's going to cost a lot of money. So I'm afraid to even pick up the phone. Right. And I think that's really what I want to help people unlock is, how should they determine whether they're ready to even pick up the phone and call you?
It's not about how much you want to spend, it's how much you want to make. So if you're looking to make a lot of money, you're going to have to invest in sales and marketing. The other thing is, if you have a budget in mind, that's always a good place to start as well. A business person is going to look at their yearly financial picture, and they're going to say, okay, we're game to spend $10,000, $50,000, $75,000 in marketing. It's always important to know a ballpark budget, because as video producers, I could come in and say, yeah, we're going to do something between $20,000 and $40,000, and then we're going to do $15,000 on ad spend, and now we're up to $55,000. And somebody says, yeah, I really had in mind $7,500. So if you say we have a budget of $7,500, we're going to figure out the best approach.
Got it. So, and the minimum is 5,000, a number you mentioned earlier, right? I mean, like, if they don't have at least $5,000 to spend, they're not quite ready yet.
Right. Then they should do it themselves and see how it goes. But it's the same thing, like, a lawyer would say, right? Yeah, do it yourself.
Right. Go to the court.
Go to the court.
Pick up the forms. Ask the court clerk
how
to fill it out.
And sometimes it's just fine. Other times, one little thing that you happen to know could make all the difference in the world. That's what it comes down to. A professional is a professional. We've made the mistakes before in 25 years of business, and we learned a lot. And of course, we're learning all the time, and we work with people who are very talented. And if they're not very talented, we don't work with them. What that means is, there are editors who work for $50 an hour, and there are editors who work for $250 an hour. And if you work with the $50 an hour guy, it's going to take longer and might not come out as good. And if you work with the $250 an hour guy, it's going to come out better and take shorter, because they're a pro. So you usually get what you pay for.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that really helps our listeners put it in perspective. Um, is you just got to decide, are you ready to invest in a professional who's going to get the job done for you the right way, probably save you a ton of time if you try to navigate this yourself, or worse, not have any video strategy, right? Like not having any video is probably the worst thing that you can do if you're trying to scale your firm, grow your firm. But when I start working with my elite coaching clients, video is not the first place we go, right? Like the first thing that we do is tell them, let's make sure you've maximized your referrals. Let's, do you have relationships with other professionals? Are you doing the best to make sure that you have your Google reviews in check? Is your Google My Business profile set? There's some basic stuff that you can do to drive the initial sales funnel, the initial queue of clients coming in. But then when you start adding attorneys to your staff and you start have 1, 2, 3 attorneys on your staff, and now you need to fill their plates or have them fill their plates with either one, it becomes harder and harder to just wait for those cases to come in. You have to be proactive, and you have to have a way of going out and getting those. And you're fighting. Who are you fighting? You're fighting the people who are bidding up on Google pay-per-click and getting the leads and then selling them to other law firms. You're fighting with all kinds of businesses that are not even law firms, and you have to get people's attention. So if you have a winning video strategy, that is more likely to get you to the front of the line than if you didn't have it.
I would say, in addition to what you're saying, it was something you said in the beginning, but I would say better to have no video than bad video, and make sure everything else is lined up. I think you're as good as your worst bit of advertising, because it could be really a turnoff. So the first thing is to make sure the logo and the brand are looking like your competitors, are looking like a big firm. The feel, the color, the layout, people I don't know why they don't see it. I guess when you're in the field, it's almost like an occupational hazard when you see bad branding, when you see mixtures of fonts, you like I get squirmish. But I think it all comes down to, if you were hiring a lawyer, it's the same thing. You don't only go by one thing. You don't only go by the price. You could tell when somebody's a quality lawyer. You could tell how much they charge, if they're charging too much or too little. So when you're picking a video company or a marketing company, it's the same thing like picking a lawyer. You scrutinize on the same basis. You want to make sure their site looks good, their reputation is good, their branding is good. And that a good lawyer is worth his weight in gold. So whether it's a video strategist or a marketing director, they're worth their weight in gold. You don't have to spend so much time, no learning curve, just
Right.
jump aboard, hire a good lawyer, get it done, do it yourself. What's going to happen? It's the same thing, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And I think we really covered everything I wanted to cover today. When I close out the podcast episode, we do 2 things. Number one, I ask you to share what is your number one piece of advice, final takeaway that you want our listeners to leave this conversation with. And number 2, where should they go if they want to learn more, get in touch with you, ask you questions, maybe discuss working with DMJ Studios on their video strategy. Let our listeners know what's their call to action. What's the next step for them to take after hearing this episode with you?
So the final advice is, number one, branding is important. You need to look like a real company, and you need to work with professional designers that you could either find on your own or work with us. We're happy to work with you, because there's nothing more frustrating than seeing somebody who's really good at what they do, and you go to their website and it doesn't look professional. So that's number one. You need to look professional on your site, in your print, in your copywriting when people come to see you. Then you can move up to the video level, and that's based on talking about strategy, starting with the end in mind. Are we trying to land a $5,000 account? Are we trying to land a $100,000 account? We need to know your specific case. You can be in touch with us. Go to our website at dmjstudios.net. You could call us on the phone at 516-300-1500. And in closing, one of the most important things to keep in mind is no matter how good your website looks, no matter how great the video looks, you have to also keep in mind the digital marketing and make sure that your marketing gets in the hands of the people who need it. Targeted marketing. Because if you do a great piece of advertising, whether it's print or video, or you have a beautiful site and nobody sees it, it's not going to do you any good. So it's really a comprehensive plan to be very successful. As you and I have discussed many times, number one, be very good at what you do, be honest at what you do, and over deliver. That will get you referrals. Then to get to the next level, your brand has to look good. Your logo needs to be updated most of the time. Your website needs to look good. And then you could move into the video. If we did great video for you and it drove people to your site, you're as good as your weakest link. Very often people want to cheap out and they just want to do the video and their website is a disaster. We advise against that. We'll be happy to make great videos for you, and we've done it, but we're trying to help people increase their business. And just having a great video is not going to do it. It's the total picture. It's all part of a unified branding strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And couldn't agree more. Thank you very much, folks. We're going to leave the contact info that David just shared. We're going to put that in the show notes. You can get to those at profitwithlaw.com or in your podcast player. It should be listed in the right below in the description of this episode. David, thank you so much for your time and kindness and just coming here and sharing all this with us. It's been really eye-opening as to how much goes into a good video strategy and how important it is and what the potential is for it to bring. Actually didn't ask you about what the potential is. You just said, how much money do you want to make? You got to invest in video. So maybe that's an after the call conversation we can have, and we can come back and put it into the show notes. But if you're at the stage in your business where you're growing, you're increasing capacity in your firm, you're adding staff, and you're starting to wonder, am I able to fill their plates? Am I able to bring in enough business for all of them? That is when you need to start thinking about strategies like this, getting a good video strategy in place. When you need to bring a certain number of cases in the door and you can't rely on, is the phone going to ring or not, strategies, that is when you need to start being proactive. And you need to start taking action on things that are going to move the needle beyond what you've been able to do up until now. And if that's where you're at, then definitely reach out to David. Doesn't have to be him, like he said. It could be anybody. You know, there's plenty of video professionals out there, but you can see that he knows what he's talking about. You can see that he cares about his clients, and he's very proud of his work. And you're going to get somebody who ran the CNN newsroom. So definitely give him a call, reach out to him, see what's involved for your law firm and your video strategy, and hopefully we can help together move your business forward. If this is your first time listening to the podcast and hearing an episode here and you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you checked out some more. We have well over 300 episodes in the podcast library. Feel free to go back and listen to as many of them as you'd like. We prefer if you shut down your office for about a month and just binge on podcast episodes for 4 weeks straight. But if you can't do that, just add us to your morning commute or to your shower or dog walking or whatever it is that you do. Pop us in your ears and listen to a bunch of conversations like these. But make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button in your podcast player so you get notified every time we release a new episode. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode. Take care. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.